Hey YouTube, Mike the Rinnai guy here. How are we all doing today? Hope we all had a safe and productive week. Alright, today is part 2 on Rinnai's 107000450. Take your little screenshot there. Their dedicated return valve, which, as you remember from last week, it's when you have a sensei, either an RU or an RUR unit, and you're going to replace the cold water inlet with that part that is the larger cold water that actually comes with this T. So it comes with this part right here. This was the cold water inlet with the flush, and it comes with this piece right here, which has a check valve built in and a bleeder valve. So you would forego using this on the tankless or remove it if you have one already installed and put this on. Now, this is made, excuse me, for a dedicated, we'll go over this once. This is made for a dedicated loop only. You cannot use it, incorporate with the thermal bypass valve that comes in the RUR series unit, the one that has the internal pump. So if that's the tankless, the pump is in the bottom left hand corner of the tankless. So you have a dedicated recirc line right here, but in this case you have an RU unit. That's what you bought, and that's what you might have installed or you will be installing. So now on the RU unit, it does not have the dedicated, it doesn't have that pump, that dedicated pump. It doesn't come with the thermal bypass. It doesn't have the plug and the filter. But it has everything else that an RUR unit has. It's pretty much almost the same, but it doesn't include the recirc part of it. So what are you going to do? Well, again, you're just going to pipe your hot directly into the tankless. There's nothing you're going to do with the hot but come from the hot water pipe up into the hot water valve kit, the red handle, into your tankless. Now you're cold. You're going to put this first part on the tankless. That is your valve and flush kit. But then you have your T right here. Now, in this case, I used black fittings. The way I have this piped, and it was different if you noticed from last week, because this one's got the GTK-15 pump on it. I made it a lot neater to come down, so a brass, say, nipple and elbow or brass street L, a brass nipple with your isolation valve. Because remember from last week, you need to isolate this side from this side in order to bleed this out. Now, if you don't want to put one of these in, or you don't have it, you can add a T into the other side of the check valve and put your own valve and bleeder in. But you want that valve closest to the cold water side. Okay, so let's run through this cold water now. You have your cold water coming from the main in the house. First thing you want to do is you're going to put that spring-loaded check valve. Remember, spring-loaded check valves only, no clapper valves. You want to use a Conbraco, you want to use an Apollo, or we use the SharkBite. For demonstration purpose, these I have made up already when we don't have this check valve, and I have 2 of these made up. But you want to use a spring-loaded check valve only. Put arrows on the check valve on both sides before you even install them. We do them again. We have them on the truck. We take them out of the box, out of the bag. We put arrows on them so that you actually see black magic marker arrows. You're not looking for the arrows casted in. So you'll always put the arrows in the right direction. Remember, if you're going to even use 2 check valves, so you're going to use one here and one here, arrows to the tankless. The Indians are shooting arrows at the fort. The tankless is the fort. okay? All right, so cold water from the house, check valve. You're gonna come up into the female side of the inlet of the water isolation valve kit. Now, you're gonna come off that precasted T, again, with some type of 3/4 brass elbow, drop it down, a valve. So right now with the valve off, I'm in the isolation position. So only water will go up into the tankless, through the tankless, into the hot water, around the house, back through this, through this, through this. And then all we need to do is open this up, hose with a bucket, sink out the garage door, whatever, floor drain. And now you're bleeding the whole loop. No water will come this way. That's why this valve needs to be on this side. The instructions on this piece shows it going directly to the unit, to the piece, that cold water side right there. You can't do it like that. You need to isolate. Now you can't say, well, I got a valve here, but once you shut that valve off, no water is going anywhere. So this valve has to be on. Of course, this valve has to be on. This valve is off because that's the flush. This valve is off, that's the flush. And now I would be able to drain it. Now, we're done. We shut this off. Put our little cap back on, because this cap actually works really good, because if the valve happens to pop open and this cap ain't tight, water spills out. Then you just turn this valve on, and now the system will circulate. But with this now, what it's doing is, because there's no pump up here, this pump will now move water. Remember, this is not a pump, it's a circulator. There is a difference. A pump, like a well pump or a pump on a fire truck, which is why they call it a pumper, pumps water under pressure. This has a little bit of pressure, but what it does is the impeller in here breaks pressure from the inlet to the outlet side, and it almost like it moves the water from one side to the other. So just remember, it's a circulating pump. It's not a pump. All right? So the pump will activate, will turn on, will come through, will go back in, go into the cold water. Now it can't go this way because you have a check valve, so you're not going to get warm water back this way. And then it's going to go up and back in. Now cold water is not going to be able to back like so, but water will get in there. All right, so now, operation of this pump. Now, with Rinnai, their CircLogic. Pretty much all their units except the V series. So we're talking about RL and the RU, whether it's an RU or an RUR. Well, an RUR is pretty much straightforward. It's got the pump in it. Of course, it's CircLogic. Now, you could connect the pump to the tankless. You can follow the directions on going into the program, into the parameters, to do like you do with an RUR. You can have the dedicated or crossover long loop, short loop, economy mode, or comfort mode. But when you're doing it this way, you pretty much got a foolproof return system. And you're going to find these in pretty much, you're going to find these, not pretty much, in every single hotel or any type of large building. I mean, I have put these pumps in that were the size of this board to recirc water back from a large hotel or apartment building. So what you got here is pretty much a foolproof way of bringing return water back, circulate water back, to get water very fast at the tap. So what I have here demonstrated is a Honeywell Aquastate. Okay, it's an L4006A. Aquastat. What this will do is the Aquastat, if it's set at 100 degrees, because inside here there's a dial, it goes from 60 to about 180. It will shut this pump off when it reaches whatever you set at the dial here. So, let's see what we got here. I don't think, let's see, they might have, I can show you here. So, that's the dial right there. You have two screws right here. This unit is line voltage and low voltage. Then you have a separate well that goes in to the, actually to feel the temperature of the water. Now they do make clamp-on aquastats. So actually, Grundfoss makes a clamp-on aquastat. And they make it with the sensitivity to sense through copper and the sensitivity to sense through CPVC. From my experience, they don't work. They don't work, and if they do, they only work for a little while, and then they don't work. So we never put these on. If we're going to do something, we put an aquastat in. Because the aquastat has a well that goes into the flow of the water. And this is how you want it. You want it through a T, not on the bull. You want it on the run. So you don't want a T with the reducer here with it going in because it's not sensing correctly. Water passes only the tip of it because you need to make this piece of pipe very long. This could be jammed up against it and the well would be in there and it will sense that water really good. And when it reaches that, say, 100 degrees, it'll shut the pump off. Then it has a differential setting in there that will turn it back on. And all you do, and I'll go through the wiring on another video to wire this, but it's very simple. Inside of this pump, you have 3 terminals. It says hot, neutral, and ground. You take your wires and you bring your ground to your ground, your white to your white. You bring your black to this. There's 2 terminals here. You bring one wire to one terminal, and then you bring the other wire back. This is acting like a light switch. So if you're familiar the way a light switch works, the ground goes to ground, the whites get tied together, and the 2 blacks, one from the power and one from the light, gets put to the switch. Power gets to the top, the light goes to the bottom, you turn the switch on, light comes on, you turn the switch off, the light goes off. That's what this is. It's a switch. That's it. Very simple. That's all it's doing. Is it's turning this thing off when it reaches at temperature and turning it back on when it gets down to a lower temperature. But now, wow, this thing costs $200 to buy. Now, on big applications that we put tanklesses in, whether it's multiple tanklesses or the demand duos, that have 2, 3, 4 circulating pumps going from different parts of the building, we will use this. But on a normal home, now, let me just step back one second. I can't tell you the last time that I installed one of these pumps because of the RUR unit. If I go in and it's a large home and it has a recirc, I'm selling them and installing an RUR. There's really no question. We will put an RU to accompany an RUR in like a large bed and breakfast, a very large home, which we're doing, a 15,000 square foot home. It's got, what has it got, about 12 bathrooms and hair sinks and pedicure chairs. We're putting one RUR, one RU on one side, one RUR, and one RU on the other side. We made them together. We put the communications cable first in, last out. Circulator goes into this, couple of check valves, Bob's your uncle. So I can't tell you the last time that I actually put one of these in, unless it was a commercial job, but in a residential home. So what do we do if we do have this and we put them in? Or we go in to fix a unit. Because this is $200, and if you don't know how to wire it, now you've got an electrical charge, we use smart plugs. Now, I carry one Alexa and one Google Home on my truck. This one happens to be a Near Pro. This is compatible with Google Home. I've been using these for about a year. This one has never left the truck because everything that we have, or anything that we actually use it for, that's not an RUR, is an Alexa. So what does this do? You plug this in. Now there is a timer on here that you can set. So there's an outlet. You put a pigtail on this with a plug. So again, hot, ground, neutral, to a plug, pre-made, pre-bought, 2 foot. Plug this into your outlet, plug this into there. So basically, and I gotta step back something. This is not the Google Home. This is just the timer, because we actually carry 3. We carry Google Home, we carry Alexa, and then if no one has that, this is what we use. So this here can be set up, as you can see, it plugs into an outlet, and then you can program this to turn on and off during certain times of the day, just like you can on an MC195-US controller that you would put on for an RUR unit. Now, if you happen to buy and these are like $15. They're like 15 bucks, $215. And you can make this, see, with this Aquastate, it's going to turn on and off pretty much a lot during the day. This, you program it to go on and off when you want to, or with the Alexa, you set up Alexa, turn on my pump. It turns the pump on. Now it starts circulating water. You do it a couple of minutes before you get in the shower. You open up the shower, you have hot water. Tell Alexa to shut down, or you can actually set it so that it will run for 5 minutes and then shut down. So this we love. These smart plugs we love because it brings the cost up, and it also lets the unit cycle a lot. Okay? I'll put this all in the description below. So let's just run through this. We have our cold water, we have our hot water, we have our recirc. Hot, boom, into the tankless, no questions asked. Now remember, you don't see a relief valve on here because on an RU series unit, RUR, the relief valve is separate. That goes in the middle between the two hot and cold water. So your cold water from the main, check valve, arrow in, up into it. You might have to put a T here with another check valve if you don't have the Rinnai dedicated return. You're going to need, to make it look pretty, you're going to need some brass fittings, brass nipples, a valve, then your check, which has your your bleeder and your bleeder port. Then into it, your pump arrow going into, so remember, all arrows, pump arrow, check valve arrows, all of that. Now, if you're not using this, you want to put your check valve between the pump and the bleeder. Because when you shut down, when this all shuts down, when it's working like it's supposed to, you could put the check valve back here on the piping. You know, that pipe could be over here, it could be over there, it could be wherever. You just got to make it as neat as possible. Like, remember, workmanship, good workmanship. You don't want your check valve on the inlet side of the pump. Will it work? Yes, it will. But why over here? Because the check valve now will stop having pressure back onto this pump. Okay? So just remember, if you don't have this, you've just got your regular isolation valve. And you have a T somewhere below it. Check, and it's after the check valve. You want to put your valve, your bleeder, then your check valve, then your pump. Okay? All right. One thing, if you use the aquastat, and I'm going to take the aquastat off to show you. This is very important. Now, I can tell you this. I have, in the years, 3+ years that I have done this, I've had a lot of people put aquastats in. Okay? Probably 5 times more than the smart switches. And I've had people that had the clamp-on aquastat that was malfunctioning, and they swapped it to this Honeywell. So there's 2 screws in here. You don't back them all the way out. There's a clamp right here, and I'll take this off. There's a clamp right here that clamps the aquastat down onto the well. And you see there's 2 screws right here. There's your 2 screws. So once you tighten that and that's pushed down, the teeth clamp the aquastat. Now, I'll show you the well. It's a 1/2" male IPS thread. That's the well. It's just a Honeywell aquastat well 1/2". They make them 3/4, but it's a 1/2" well. And it goes into a female adapter, and you see how far it goes in? Picture this as a T this way. Look how far out you'll be, because you don't want this banging into the back of the pipe, and it doesn't register, because the water is going to go. It's going to go in a little bit, but here it's going, whoop, well, I can't go that way, got to go that way. So it's sensing this. But there's something that comes with the aquastat that's very, very important, because as you can see, it gets pushed into here. Now you want to, if you're going to put these on your truck, I leave these in the box, and then I put them inside of a piece of PVC. Why? If these things get even a ding on it, you're not getting this in. It's not going. See how easy it goes in? All right. There's something that comes in the aquastat box that's very important, and that is this silver heat absorbing material. This stuff needs to be coated on this well. So you're going to cut the paper, the plastic, and you're going to, now I give you a lot. You don't need this much. You just want to, like paint it with all of this. Now, I'm going to tell you this from experience. You shake the packet down, and you just cut the tip. Make sure you have good rubber gloves. This stuff is not forgiving. When it gets on you, your hands, your clothes, the clothes, they'll always be silver, no matter how many times you wash it. Your fingers, it's going to take days to get it off. All right? And I'm going to tell you this from experience. I look like the Tin Man sometimes when I used it. And it's very important to use it, because what it does is it enhances the well to make it absorb the heat out of the water to make that aquastat work better. Okay? And there is actually a material safety data sheet that comes inside of the actual box. So it's heat conductive compound. And I've used this on other, when you're done, you can just put a little clip over it, save it. It doesn't really ever go bad. We used it to coat multiple things that needed to absorb heat. But again, it is not forgiving if you get it on your clothes. So that is, and then these are the 2 screws right there that the wires go on. The power goes on the top, and then going back to the pump goes on the bottom. And there's your dial. So it goes from 40 to 180. And I would set this at around 100 degrees, because your water's around, say, 120. I know a lot of your customers, they put it up higher. They want 140, but you know, it's all in their mind because the shower bodies are only giving, you know, 114, 115 degrees. And then you lock it down. Now the cover is on. And then this, once you get this tight, all of this will stop moving. And that's it. All right. So again, cold water check valve into the water, flush valve kit. You have, if you don't use the dedicated recirc, you put your T here, your bleeder. Other than that, brass fittings, T, the bleeder port, your aquastate, or if not, you could put a drain here if you wanted to. And then back in, and then you wire it to a smart plug. But I'll go over the wiring in the next video. Alrighty, I get this question a lot, and I figured I'd do this in my next video. You know, I get tons of emails, tons of comments. You know, I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people. I get some really phenomenal thank yous back from them. But when I talk to these people, they ask me, you know, what is my background? Now, I don't know, for all you new subscribers, this is a family business. It was in New York. It started in 1922. I'm 58 years old. I was going from, at 5 years old, going from downstairs to the shop. My uncle, who was also my godfather, worked for my father, who was a licensed plumber for New York City. And I would go to work with my father. At around 11 years old, I actually went to work with my uncle installing gas boilers, water heaters, other types of implements. At 15 years old, when I was not in school, I would go, let me grab my cigar here a second. I would go to work on my off hours. My father got a truck and got me a 42-year-old helper, who actually, that gentleman is the one that started me with all my tattoos. His name was Eddie Persico, and he was my helper. He was 42 years old. I was 15 years old installing Wild McLean boilers. And I just loved this business. I've been a licensed plumber for New York City, Nassau, Suffolk, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and now here in Florida. So I had 6 licenses for 6 different municipalities. But this is where we moved my business when we decided to, when I retired. And for those who don't know, I was also a fireman and a chief of the, I got out as chief of department of a Nassau County 4th Battalion fire company. And I did 21 years with the fire department. So I just loved helping people. So that's my background. That's how many years. I have actually about, I would say around 44 years experience with gas work. And we got into Rinnai's when we moved down here 14 years ago. And actually I didn't want to do tanklesses because any tankless we did in New York, we took out because they didn't work right. Now, I don't remember the brands. They were, I know 4 of them were brought from Italy by our tile man, and he wanted them in his 4 houses. And within a month, we tore them all out and put water heaters in. So when I got down here, I was very, very hesitant about installing these tanklesses. And, oh God. Can't remember the supply house that came down with Tico gas and a Rinnai rep, and him, who was the salesman, offered to give me a tankless to install it, and if I didn't like it, they'd pay for me to take it out. So what did I do? I put it in my own house, in my rental. I needed a water heater. So I took it out, put this thing in, and you know, I actually moved that Rinnai from my rental, which is only a block away, to this house that I bought 8 years ago. And I still would be using it if it didn't get damaged during a hurricane when a piece of a fence came down and smashed into the side and caused the heat exchanger to leak. So I replaced it. I could have put a new heat exchanger in, fixed it, but I just replaced it. And they've been working flawless. So that's why I decided to start this channel to help people out with Rinnai. So that is my background with this, to answer a question that I do get quite often on my, and why did I choose Rinnai? I was actually installing, in the first few years, we were actually installing everybody's. We were doing Norritz, we were doing Rheem, we were doing Bosch, we were doing Takagi, we were doing A.O. Smith, we were doing Nevion, we were doing them all. And Rheem was a very big also tankless that we were installing. And the Rheem rep would call me up and say, hey Mike, can you go down and look at this brand new tankless in this brand new home? It's malfunctioning. And I would show up there and it was something bad in it, whether the heat exchanger went bad, there was a leak in it, the water servo valve, the PC board, something. But then when the Rinnai rep would call me and I would go down and look at a Rinnai, it was always installer error. Whether the hot and the cold were reversed. Now these were just standard RL units. They were not these RURs, so the older RUR 98s like that. They were not all like this new Senseis. They were all RL, exterior, sometimes interior. Whether the hot and the cold was reversed, the gas was not proper, no proper gas pressure, no regulator too close, no ground, stapled through the controller wire, something. It was always installer error. Never, ever did I have something bad in that unit. And when I decided, you know, too many parts, and it was a no-brainer to choose Rinnai. And that was like 9 years ago. And I just stuck with Rinnai. And then started this channel 3.5 years ago. Because I thought to myself, if there's that many problems I'm going to here in the state of Florida, what's going on in the United States, Canada, and throughout the whole world? Well, I'll tell you. There's a lot of fly-by-nights that are putting these in and not knowing what they're doing, and they're not doing good for their customers. And I got a lot of plumbers that call me up and say, listen, I want to get into this. Why have you chose Rinnai? I explain to them, and then I will help them for the next couple of months with photos or drawings going back to them to help them install these units. Okay? Alrighty. So, everything will be in the description below. Pricing. If you want a piping diagram, I have one, and my daughter can easily scan it and send it to you. Okay? All right. I don't think I have. Yes, I do. Let me just show. I know, look at it. It's unprepared again. But if you're interested in the filter removal tool, so this tool designed by Mr. Dick Woods from Texas is $30. If you're in the continental United States, that's including shipping. My email will be below. Send me your info. I'll send you the Venmo, or you can mail me a check and I'll mail you one of these puppies out. But they've been working flawlessly for us. Okay? All right, YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're enjoying this endless hot water. And I will see you on the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye.